Hey, you guys, and welcome to American Culture. I think it's like the second week of my brand new life. And I'm going to tell you guys I'm in the process of writing a book. And one thing that God wants me to do is, as I go chapter by chapter, read and share that with you guys. And so I finally gained enough confidence and I'm happy with where I'm at with it. So I decided to start doing that today. And today I'm going to read to you chapter 1, the beginning of the forced life, because the book is called The Unforced Life, The Miracle Within. It's basically about how you go from that life of, I think I have to do it this way, to living that life of flow. How do you go from being stuck to progress and prosperity? An interesting thing happened though. You see, as I was getting ready to do this thing that's a big deal to me, it started to crumble around me. I couldn't find the microphone, which I thought that I needed because my phone apparently was making all these noises every time I was trying to make a video. I thought I needed a new phone. Anyway, I couldn't find the the microphone. I finally did. It didn't work. I thought I needed to charge it. I charged it. Still didn't work. Now the connector, the little adapter thing won't adapt, and it doesn't work with it because it was for an Android and I had to use a converter to connect it. I don't know where the other connector is. I have another microphone here, a Snowball, which takes a USB port to do it. So I search high and low, and I finally find the USB port. Now, mind you, I am at the point to where I realize this must be great. Whatever I'm doing, it's going to lead to great things, because why would I be experiencing all this controversy? And I had normalized having to go through some crap before you could get through the good. That's just life. And so I decided that I could pray about it or I could find what I was looking for. So I decided to do both. I prayed about it. In the midst of doing that, I found the little port for the USB thing, put it into the phone. It wouldn't fit. So I took the cover off of the phone and plugged it in, and it was doing this weird noise. So I said, oh my goodness. So it's just not going to work. Well, I know that if I order by 8 o'clock, then the Amazon will have it tomorrow because I'm not going to the store to get another thing right now. It's ridiculous. Let me do that. I basically came to the end of the rope of everything that I could do in my human capacity. Look for it, get enough, find peace with the circumstance. If God wanted it to work, it would. And then I got the idea to just try. Like I said, before, the phone was doing this with every video. So that's why I knew that I needed a microphone in order for things to work. But the funny thing is I had taken off the case because I needed the little end of the USB thing to fit. And once I hit play back, I realized, whoa, I can hear myself. So I didn't need a new phone after all. It's just I need a new case that's not going to muffle the noise. And I say all that to tell you guys what you're going to realize when you start living that unforced life, that miracle within, is that yes, all of this is for your good. And you're going to realize that even though things fall apart, it's really to set you up to see what's good there. And a previous version of myself before, I had the words for this book, would have gone through all this controversy and said that, oh, okay, this is a sign I'm not supposed to be doing that. I would have never even gotten to the point of enduring to the end, being so committed to, if God wants me to do this, he'll help me find the thing or make it work. That I actually was able to not only fix the problem, but realize I didn't even have one to begin with. My phone works. The volume is fine. I just needed a new cover. So with that being said, and him giving us that little example of what's to come, I'm going to start reading chapter 1. Now, you guys, I haven't even read this yet, so we're going to go through it together. Chapter 1, the beginning of the forced life. So it says, chapter 1, the beginning of the forced life. Have you ever thought about how from the moment you were born, you don't really have much of a say? I mean, it wasn't really your fault or idea how you ended up here to begin with. Before you even form your first memory, so much of your life has already been decided for you. From day one, someone else decides your name, the environment you'll grow up in, the kind of food you eat, and many of the experiences you'll have. And it doesn't stop there. A good chunk of your mindset will be molded after those around you, and just like your forefathers' minds were molded by their examples as well. By the time you turn 7 years old, your thoughts won't even be your own. A mixture of influence and comparison, that's all you'll be. Lost in the sauce before you even figured out what kind of meal you were trying to prepare. Individuality lost. From your first breath, you're measured constantly against charts, timelines, milestones, what you should be doing at 6 months, 1 year, 2, 5, 10, already noted, and you better measure up or else. And what's the or else? A lifetime of diagnosis and pill popping in order to justify why you think and act the way that you do. Especially now in modern times, there's a diagnosis for nearly every thought process, every behavior, every deviation from what someone else decided was normal. And somewhere along the way, many of us became dependent on those labels, those judgments, so much so that we introduce ourselves through them. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I have this disease and that disorder. I'm this anxious. And all of this is happening because of A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. The label becomes your identity. And in doing so, we forget how to accept ourselves as we are. We forgot how to simply relate to being human without explanation, without comparison, and without judgment. We're constantly measuring ourselves against something or someone we've never actually met, so much so that early in life it can become difficult for some of us to relate to others and ourselves because we don't know how to stop assuming there's something wrong with our thoughts and actions. The problem is we all fail to recognize we live in a time where human relationship has taken a back seat to human judgment. We're far more focused on evaluating one another than actually relating to each other. Judgment, by its nature, is always based on something that has already happened, previously experienced, observed, or assumed. As a result, from our very first encounters, people are constantly being compared, contrasted, and measured against the past events, past people, and past disappointments. What this fundamentally does is removes individuals from the possibility of truly being seen. When someone is filtered through judgment, they're no longer encountered as they are, but as a reflection of what someone else has already lived through. This makes it nearly impossible to work with, understand, or to relate to a person in real time. And this is precisely why genuine relationship with peers and family has taken a back seat. Relating requires presence, openness, and curiosity. Judgment requires none of those, only perception and memory. When judgment leads, relationships never really have a chance to begin. And this is where the forced life that we all know and live starts. It starts with judgment. Like I said, from the time you were born, you're pretty much under the direction of somebody else's decisions, their judgment of what's right, what's natural, what's good, what's normal, and what should be. And you spend your entire life trying to mold yourself to fit into that. What ends up happening is you lose your identity, who you naturally are. Yeah, you're a child. You have these things. You like to color. You like to blogs. You like taking things apart and putting them back together. People think it's cute, but they don't nurture that. What they nurture instead is the academic. They nurture the future farmer, the future cosmetologist, the future whatever they think that you should be. They push you towards what they believe will provide a decent life and a living, and over time, who you were actually meant to be gets slowly snuffed out until it's little more than a daydream, a fantasy, something you think about when you're tired or unhappy, but never something you believe you're allowed to become. That's this incredibly unique individual who ends up getting compared to everyone else as if sameness is the goal. And if you don't fall in line, something must be wrong with you. If you're not careful, you'll spend your entire life comparing yourself to invisible, never actually getting to know yourself for what's here and who you actually are. The thing is, dreams scare people, risk scares people, and it settles them. And when you don't want to follow a straight career path, or even if you've been on one for a long time and suddenly want to change trajectories, it muddies the water. And what that does is push a lot of people to settle in the spaces they can't grow in, spaces where they can't experience real joy because there's nobody there to share it with. The people around them don't know how to support it. They don't know how to uplift it. They don't know how to encourage a good thing and to keep it going. Everybody around you feels problematic because you're problematic. And you've been that way because problems get the most attention. Problem gets the most sympathy, and up until this point, sympathy may have been the biggest form of love you ever received. So you've built relationships around that, around needing sympathy for the life you're living. And all of this happens because you forced yourself to play a part. There's an inner journey where the soul knows it doesn't want to do this. It doesn't want to be this way. It doesn't want to keep going to those places doing that stuff. That intuitive knowing doesn't go anywhere. It's always there. I'm in the wrong space. I really don't like this. There's no way I can wake up this early or stay up this late for the rest of my life. And suddenly it's not about the outside anymore. It's about what's going on within. It's about why you ever felt the need to put yourself into a box when you weren't square to begin with. Life shifts into getting to know yourself, who you are, what you want to do, and what you want to be. That becomes more important than playing a part in anybody's life, including your own. You'll face challenges. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm not saying the journey is easy, because it's not. But it does get lighter as you go. There's a breeze later on in the journey. Along the way, you'll face trust issues, self-esteem issues, the need for validation. You'll start uncovering where all this stuff came from and seeing how it's been reflected back to you in reality that you're living right now. And over time, as you work on your character and grow the fruits of the Spirit the way God says you should, you'll start to see it different, not just inwardly, but outwardly too. You'll be able to live it out. So the forced life is actually very simple. It's a life weighed down by judgment based off of past experiences. It's like living in reverse, constantly playing a part, hoping this time it works out better, and it never quite does. Eventually, you realize God gave you a life and you decide to pursue that. So you do the work over the years and you finally reach a point where you make a decision. You can either continue to live a life where you cope, or you can choose to live a life that you actually get to live. And by the time I finish this book, I started in September and I finished in January of 2026. God had pretty much walked me through every chapter, including the ending. And the ending is where you reach this moment of decision. You realize you can either overcome in order to endure, which means you persevere, you move forward with God, and there's an end to this, or you can choose to set up shop in a not so great environment and simply cope with it. And there's the thing. Towards the end, you start to understand that overcoming, while it's a powerful biblical principle and an important characteristic to carry, isn't meant to become a permanent state of being. It's temporary. It's a strength that you use while you endure something, because to endure means to get through, and getting through implies there's an end. Overcoming doesn't exactly change what's happening on the outside. You could still be in an environment that's toxic, not nurturing, and not meant to sustain growth. And God knows He's not trying to have you set up shop there. Those spaces exist for a lesson, something to move you through, not something to build a life in. His kingdom isn't built there. So overcoming allows you to endure a situation until it resolves or it comes to an end. But what happens with a lot of people is they find themselves in a situation where there is no resolution. One side of the environment is determined to stay toxic, negative, stagnant. Nothing's allowed to grow. And in that moment, you're given a choice. You can go with God and say, I'm willing to take the risk into the unknown and leave because I can't grow here. You're getting that message clearly. Or what most people choose to do, they try to make themselves comfortable there. You go back to playing a part, performing, do whatever keeps you at peace so you can cope with the circumstance. It takes a lot of spiritual maturity to overcome something, to not react but respond. Sometimes with that, nothing at all. But that same spiritual maturity can quietly turn into emotional numbness when you force yourself to stay in places that can't serve you. And the problem is, you can't block out the emotion without dimming one emotion without dimming all the others. If you're blocking out anger, you're going to also block out joy. So eventually, you're faced with a very personal and very clear choice. You can't see it any other way anymore. Either you continue coping with this very forced existence that you have to live in, or you can actually choose to live that unforced life where you flow with who you were meant to be. And even though you don't fully know what living looks like yet, and yeah, that's scary, you decide to do what God's telling you to do anyway. By this point, you've gotten your individuality back. You know who you are. You know what you like to do. You know what you love. You have visions. You have dreams. And you want to pursue what the character you now embody is capable of pursuing. Truth is, you've always wanted to go this direction. All of this has been happening because you've already been going this direction anyway. It's just time to step into the tangible parts of what comes next. You've moved through the childhood trauma, the drama, the pain, the nonsense. You've healed in real ways. You've done real self-reflection. You know you. You see you. You forgive you. You understand. You've picked up grace and mercy, and you apply them to yourself and others. You're in a good space, a grounded space. And finally, you realize the breakthrough wasn't about pushing harder. It was about severing the ties that kept the forced life attached to the unforced life, the one that's actually the miracle, the one that comes from within. So I thank you guys for reading along with me with chapter 1. It took a lot out of me to be able to do that. Tomorrow we'll come back and we'll read chapter 2. I'll probably do some revisions to make it be a little bit more cohesive, put some title things on there so that we can break it down and just go from there. But I think that this is good for me to have gotten this lesson, to realize that I don't need a new phone, that I just needed to take off the case so that the microphone would work again, and to actually just get out there and make this, because this is what's getting the book done. Have a blessed day, you guys. See you tomorrow.